everyone, and welcome back. Today we're exploring nonverbal communication in Chapter 5. Now, most of us think communication as words, but in reality, the majority of what we communicate happens without those words. So in this chapter, what we're going to explore today is how we decode meaning. We shape relationships and sometimes say more than words ever could. So we're looking at the importance of that nonverbal communication, how to improve that nonverbal communication, and really understand how important this is with our everyday communication. So first, what exactly is nonverbal communication? It's any communication produced without spoken words. Yeah, pretty simple, hopefully, right? It includes things like facial expressions, our gestures, our tone of voice, even the space we use. Now, they can be ambiguous. They're culturally based, which means it changes through cultures, which is something to definitely study for your speech coming up, but they're usually more trusted than words. Think about it. If someone says they're fine, but their face shows that they're angry or they're sad, which message are you more likely to believe? So some examples here that we want to look at is we've been studying communication. 7% of that communication is through our words that we use. We looked at our vocal delivery, which is 38% of communication, but the big part here that is 55%, that big pink section, that is your body language. That is how you use your words. That would be like crossing your arms. That would be pacing, different ways of nonverbal communication. So what purpose does nonverbal communication serve? There's going to be a few here. I'll try to list them out. The first one here is complement our words. They reinforce what we're saying. So here, of course, I had to use Mahomes. I'm sorry, but I'm a Chiefs fan, so I had to include just a little bit there. But it reinforces our verbal communication. So he's pointing like you if you're saying something there. If you're saying no, we shake our heads. We use something to complement what we're already saying. Or even just a facials if you have a toddler like me, that of course you get some facials that kind of, complement what they're saying. Another one here is contradict. It conveys the opposite meaning of verbal communication. So that would be this from The Office, absolutely not, but not really. It's basically like the little one here in the middle. He's saying like, oh, I love my mom, and then he starts crying because he misses her. Or when you're saying, yes, but here she's shaking her head no, that is contradicting. It's pretty much meaning the opposite of what you're saying. Now, we use this a lot of times if we're being sarcastic, which is why it's really hard for someone to pick up on our sarcasm. The next one will be accenting. This would be emphasizing part of the message rather than the entire message. This would be like here, you see the mouse? It's saying that he's hungry. So if you say you're hungry, but your actions, your nonverbals, rubbing your stomach or something, that accents part of the message. It gives, where's the most important part that you're trying to get across to someone. The next one here would be repeating just what you think. It's, for example, if you're saying yes, what do? You nod. Am I right? Yes. We just kind of, repeat. We emphasize certain parts here. Other ones is substituting. That is words together, like if you're waving, instead of saying hello, you're waving to it. So it's instead of having that word communication, you're using a nonverbal to help, substitute that type of communication. Now, our book goes into a lot more. So sometimes we might see substituting, and it talks about maybe you're in the hallway and someone's waving, and you think it's for you, so you wave back, but it's for the person behind you. So sometimes you can see how this can lead to miscommunication, and we really have to understand the person. And this other one that got kind of weird with the slides is regulating. It's controlling the flow of conversation. Basically, if you're talking to someone and they start looking away or they look down at their phone, does that immediately stop you wanting to talk? Probably. That's a way of regulating that type of communication. So, another part here is how does touch impact communication? Believe it or not, this is one of the most powerful nonverbal channels. That is touch. Touch helps initiate, regulate, and maintain relationships. Think about it when you first meet someone like you see down here. What do you typically do? You give a good handshake, am I right? This is something that we do. It's a study of communication through touch is haptics. We inherently desire that physical contact. We use this as a way to gauge, a relationship. So when you first meet someone, you're thinking about their handshake. Was it a strong handshake? Was it too short? Was it too sweaty? It's a way of getting to know someone. Or if you meet people that like to hug and maybe other people don't until you've kind of built on that communication. So that self-disclosure, maybe it hasn't happened quite yet. But too little touch can also lead to researchers what they call touch deprivation. So basically how you use touch really does matter. So other ways is the duration, how long you touch, how long is a hug. Have you ever had someone who hugs you a little bit too long? Maybe around the holidays, you have a few in the family. The frequency, how often we hug or how often we touch. In playing, if you're playing a game and you're with your teammates, there's different ways you use touch and frequency to help communicate something, or even just how intense something is. In our textbook, it goes into the scale and this range, and you can get into a lot more communication about that. The next part here, there's a video I could share, but basically there are studies of just how to have the perfect handshake etiquette. I include this as a link. It's from, the UK. It's kind of a fun way of how they say how you should touch and how it should never be the lady first. And there's different rules that are very cultural biased. So that's something if you used the United Kingdom to study that you could use. So another big one here is, I say it wrong, but kinesics is the study of communicating using body language. This would be the way we move, our posture, our gestures, all send signals. Your eye contact, for example, is often the very first form of communication that we share. It can show that you're interested, you're honest, or even uncomfortable, which means for your speeches, it's very important that you immediately look up for your introduction. You're staring at the audience, and that will show that you are confident and that you are ready and prepared, even if that isn't true. So eye contact, very important, and even small changes in your body language completely shift how a message is received. Another one here is proxemics, that is the use of space. That would be, intimate space, you're really close to someone, maybe could hug. Personal space, if you are to sit in a movie theater, how close are you going to sit to someone next to you? Or if it's a public space, do you sit really far away? There are certain rules within society. So basically in the US, we have this social space, it's only okay to stand so close to someone. But if you went over to, in Japan where you have to be closer, obviously this would change. Another one here to think about is your vocalics. This would be your voice. How does your voice impact? Well, other than the words you use, it would be the way you are talking. How does your tone and your tempo, your paralanguage, are you pausing? Or are you like me trying to get as much into this as we can in the 15 minutes that we have? It's basically your emotions. So if you are emotional, if you're excited in your speech, use that with your voice. It definitely stands out to your audience and it makes it more fun for everyone to listen to. So definitely have some good vocal delivery. Some other ones here to help with your speeches is you want to speak louder. If you speak a little bit louder than normal, it projects that confidence. It helps project that authority, that you are credible, that you know what you're talking about. Even if you don't, we trust people that speak a little bit louder than normal. It maintains and keeps the attention of your audience, and it really helps your audience because we only hear a speech one time. That means you want to connect with them in that moment by pausing a little bit, breathing, and speaking loud enough we can hear you. Another one here is your rate, just how fast you speak. Now in these lecture videos, I try to talk quickly because we have a lot to cover in a very short amount of time because you have a lot to cover in this class. Now rate, you want to go slow enough the audience can keep up with you, but also not too slow because it could lose their interest. The average rate to help you is 125 words per minute. Now, if your speech needs to reach, 5 minutes, you can do some math to see just how many words you might need. Now, if you're nervous or you're presenting to family or friends and you're excited, hopefully, you will speak faster than normal. So definitely prepare for that and just have a little bit extra for your speeches. Another one is your pitch. This would be what's called, you probably heard of, intonation or monotone. If you speak in the same tone for the entire speech, do you think your audience would be very excited to listen? Definitely not. You want to mix it up. Get loud. Pause and whisper. Change your voice, change your intonation to make it more fun for everyone listening to your speech. Another one is look out for those filler words. Will I grade on your ums and your uhs? No, I will not. This isn't like public speaking. I'm not going to grade harshly, but look out for these words, especially if you ever have to do an interview. If you say or you just don't look as prepared or as confident. Now, if you feel like you're about to use one, my best advice for you is to breathe, pause, and don't let the words come out. Just kind of pause like, nope, don't say that. Pausing and being quiet is more, showing confidence than using a filler word. There are some videos I could show you to help show that as well. Facial expressions. Now, when you start your speech, the first thing your audience is going to notice is that eye contact and your facial expressions. Now, if you're nervous for your speech or you're raising your eyebrows, your audience will catch on to that. So you want to have a good, strong expression. Start with a smile. Start with confidence. And definitely help engage your audience here. Another one is use note cards for your speech. This would be something called oculics. This is the study of how we communicate through our eye behavior. If you use note cards, it does help with your eye contact with your audience. You're able to look at the audience a little bit more. I recommend memorizing your first, introduction, first 30 seconds of your speech if you're able. That way you can really look at your audience to start off strong. And then gestures, of course, would be if you are twirling your hair, if you are moving your hands a lot, those gestures, your hand gestures there can really explain a lot. So you definitely want to study, maybe watch yourself in a mirror to see how often you use hand gestures. And it can help with that. Another one is time. Do you need to be on time for your speeches? Yes. If you use your time wisely, it shows that you are prepared and that you are ready for your speech. If someone is constantly late for a meeting with you, how do you start to perceive this person? How do you communicate with them? Or if they're constantly the opposite, they're always early. How does that culturally defined? Some other ones in our textbook is our artifacts. We look at different artifacts people wear, such as tattoos, engagement or wedding rings, or even what type of jewelry we wear to help kind of artifacts that communicates a meaning of what someone has and what they find important. And then how do you improve your nonverbal? Practice, practice, practice. Practice your speeches out loud. It will really help with your preparation of your speech here. It'll help you connect with your audience. And then definitely look for nonverbal behaviors like smiling, leaning in, and getting ready for your speeches. So if you have any questions, let me know. But thanks for tuning in today. We did pretty well on time. And I'll see you next time as we connect these ideas back to public speaking and how nonverbal delivery can make or break your preparation.